Welcome back to the channel, friends. Thank you for joining us once again on this journey into the shadows. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and get ready for an epic saga of light, darkness, and the battles that shape Neo-Tokyo's fate. Welcome back to the epic saga where the boundaries of light and darkness blur. As the echoes of battle fade, Neo-Tokyo awaits its reckoning. Jin-Woo and Hana's fate remains uncertain. Did they conquer the monstrous shadow, or did it claim them for the abyss? Part 2 unearths long-buried secrets and unleashes powers hidden even from the bravest. Relationships will deepen, betrayals will cut deeper, and every moment draws the city closer to the ultimate truth. Stay tuned, for the city's heart is beating faster than ever. The world snapped back into focus. Broken stone and ravaged steel surrounded Jin-Woo, dust swirling in the aftermath of the fight. Hana lay nearby, a faint blue aura pulsing as her wounds slowly knit together. The monstrous shadow was gone, but so was a fragment of Jin-Woo's own power, siphoned off in the final exchange. He staggered upright, the chamber flickering with uncertain light. Hana coughed, her eyes finding his. We survived. But, what did we lose? Jin-Woo scanned the ruins. Shivers ran through his veins as he realized the city itself felt somehow emptier. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from deeper within the labyrinth. Jin-Woo tensed, shadows ready, but the figure that emerged was not a specter. It was a young woman he'd never seen before, her eyes shining gold in the gloom. She smiled enigmatically. You broke the city's curse, at a cost only fate will reveal. But new enemies have awakened, and this war is far from finished. Jin-Woo met Hana's gaze, both understood. Their fight might have ended one threat, but it had opened the door to a new peril, one that would test everything they'd built, and the limits of their own souls. Thus, Neo-Tokyo's story continues, deeper and darker than ever before. The shadows deepened in the twisting catacombs beneath Neo-Tokyo as Jin-Woo and Hana braced themselves against the swell of darker forces. The air grew thick with anticipation, an unholy stillness before the inevitable storm. From the mist emerged their fiercest adversary yet, a towering wraith wreathed in flickering black flames that scorched the stone floor. Its voice was a cold hiss that slithered through the chamber. You have disturbed the balance. Now face oblivion. Jin-Woo tightened his grip on his shadow blades, their cold steel humming with latent energy. We carry the city's will, he declared fiercely. And we will not fall beneath your shadow. The battle exploded with brutal intensity. The wraith lashed out with tendrils of dark fire, each strike burning with supernatural heat. Jin-Woo twisted and dodged, slicing through the flaming limbs with precise, fluid movements, each slash sending arcs of shadow energy rippling in the air. The fight was a violent ballet of light and shadow, each combatant pushing the other's limits. Hana darted like a flame herself, her daggers flashing as she targeted the wraith's vulnerable points. She parried a blast of dark fire, countered with a burst of electric energy, and leapt into a flurry of precise strikes, each one weakening the dark behemoth. Keep pushing, Jin-Woo. It's weakening. Jin-Woo nodded, a fierce calm washing over him as he called upon the deepest well of his shadow power. With a deep inhale, he unleashed a vortex of shadows that enveloped the wraith. The creature shrieked as the darkness that was its essence turned into its tormentor. As the wraith staggered, Jin-Woo and Hana moved in for the final strike. But just as Jin-Woo's blades were about to pierce its core, the chamber trembled violently. Cracks hissed through the stone, and a deafening roar echoed from deep below. An ancient force had awakened, one mightier and more sinister. The wraith's form dissolved into smoke, but the threat was far from over. The ground beneath them split open like a maw, threatening to swallow them whole. Hana shouted, "Run!" But Jin-Woo held firm, shadows swirling protectively around them. The cavern began collapsing, rock and debris fell like rain. As they sprinted toward the exit, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, blocking their path and giving a sinister smile. Your fight has just begun, the stranger whispered, vanishing before their eyes, leaving Jin-Woo and Hana stranded on the edge of oblivion. The screen of night closed in, and the fate of Neo-Tokyo's defenders hung by a thread, a cliffhanger that stirred the city into hushed, anxious anticipation. The cavern trembled as Jin-Woo and Hana faced a new cascade of shadow beasts, their forms shifting between smoke and jagged darkness. They moved like a living storm, swirling in erratic patterns meant to confuse. Watch their rhythm, Hana warned, eyes sharp. They strike in chaos, but they have a pattern beneath. Jin-Woo adjusted his stance, blades glowing with swirling shadows. With a sudden surge, he struck a shadow beast that lashed toward Hana. The clash echoed through the chamber, shadow meeting shadow-infused steel. The creature dissolved into a mist, but three more surged forward. Hana spun gracefully, daggers streaking blue arcs in the air. Each strike severed limbs and fractured ethereal armor. A massive beast emerged, larger and more ferocious, its glowing eyes filled with ancient malice. Jin-Woo's breath hitched as it roared and lunged. He sidestepped narrowly, feeling the heat of its dark flame trailing behind. Hana, flank it! He shouted, summoning shadow tendrils to entangle its legs. Hana dashed, riding the trapped moment to dive beneath and stab at its core with electrified daggers. The beast bellowed, thrashing violently, cracking the floor beneath them. Jin-Woo leapt, channeling the deepest shadow energy into a spinning strike that pierced the creature's chest. It howled, convulsed, then shattered into shards of dark light that scattered with the wind. Both fighters gasped as adrenaline faded, their bodies marked by burns and bruises but their spirits unbroken. That was close, Hana said, wiping sweat from her brow. Jin-Woo managed a tired smile. Every fight is a reminder, we're fighting for more than survival. The city depends on us. But shadows stirred deeper in the labyrinth, silent and patient, waiting for the moment to strike again. The darkness pressed in tighter as Jin-Woo and Hana stood in the heart of the ancient chamber, awaiting the next wave of attackers. The drained energy from their last battle weighed heavily, but there was no time to rest. The air shimmered as a surge of shadow spirits poured forward, their forms shifting like smoke, eyes burning with hungry malice. Jin-Woo tightened his grip on his shadow blades, shadows dancing along the edges like living fire. Watch their movement, erratic but there's a pattern, he warned. Hana mirrored his posture, daggers crackling with blue electric sparks. I see it. We strike when they regroup. The first shadow lunged, claws extended in a terrifying blur. Jin-Woo sidestepped, slicing a blade flicker that disintegrated part of the spirit's form. His counterstrike was not just force but precision, exploiting weak ethereal joints where the shadows coalesced least. He flowed gracefully through the dance of death, his blades humming a deadly melody. Hana weaved seamlessly through the fray, her daggers striking with electrified speed. As multiple spirits converged, she unleashed a rapid series of thrusts, each blade leaving a glowing trail as they shattered spectral limbs. She ducked under a sweeping strike, landing a precise jab into the heart of a shadow that wailed and dissipated. The battle crescendoed as a massive shadow beast emerged, its eyes fiery coals, its body a warping mass of darkness. It surged forward with terrifying speed, tendrils lashing out like whips. Jin-Woo dodged, barely evading a tendril that scorched the ground. Summoning the deepest shadows within, he flung a vortex that sucked at the creature's form, attempting to immobilize it. Hana circled wide, dagger tips igniting with electric charge. She slashed across the beast's flanks, each strike stunning the creature. But the beast roared, thrashing wildly, the chamber shaking under its fury. Jin-Woo called out, focus on the core. Strike together. With a synchronized charge, blades and daggers tore into the creature's glowing chest. It screamed, a sound that seemed to shake the very shadows, before exploding in a burst of dark light. Jin-Woo and Hana stood, breaths heavy, massive relief flooding them. But their victory was short-lived. From the deepest darkness, an ominous rumble grew. The ancient stone cracked and groaned. A dark figure loomed at the entrance, A new, greater foe, its presence smothering the chamber in an unnatural chill. Your struggle amuses me, the figure intoned, voice like grinding steel. But Neo Tokyo's fate lies in far darker hands than yours. Jin-Woo met the gaze steadily. Then come and claim it. The chamber plunged into darkness. The clash between shadow and light was far from over. The chamber was a chaotic storm of shadows and steel. Jin-Woo and Hana stood back to back as dark wraiths converged, their forms shimmering like broken glass, unpredictable yet deadly. Each movement required sharp precision and unyielding focus. Jin-Woo darted forward, shadow blades flashing like streaks of midnight lightning. His strikes were swift yet calculated, aiming for weak spots where the specters' forms flickered most unstable. One swipe severed an arm that dissipated into wisps of smoke, another spiraled in a crescent, cutting down two attackers in a single graceful arc. Hana moved with equal ferocity, her twin daggers crackling with electricity. She ducked under a sweeping claw and retaliated with a rapid series of slashes, each punctuated with bursts of charged energy that seared and shattered ghostly flesh. Their armor is ethereal but thin at the joints, she called out, her voice fierce and clear. We focus there. A massive wraith, larger, pulsating with a dark core, stormed the center. It unleashed a roar that shook the chamber, spewing tendrils of corrupt shadow flame. Jin-Woo balanced on the edge of his reflexes, twisting and evading the scorching lashes. He summoned his deepest shadow reserves, forming a swirling shield that absorbed the attack, steam hissing as the darkness met the cold void. Now, Hana! Jin-Woo shouted. With a roar, she charged, daggers ablaze, plunging into the beast's core. The creature howled in rage and agony, thrashing wildly. Jin-Woo's blades cut through the beast's flanks, shadows coiling and slicing as the colossal form staggered and began to crumble like cracked obsidian. The fight was brutal, draining their stamina, but victory was within reach. Yet as the beast fell, a quake rattled the chamber, deeper and darker forces stirred, promising the fight was far from over. Jin-Woo and Hana barely caught their breath when the ground beneath them shuddered, stones and dust cascading from the high vaulted ceiling. The chamber was growing unstable, time was running short. Their latest victory had come at a cost. Both were bruised, panting, shadows flickering weakly at their sides. Suddenly, from the swirling darkness, more shadow creatures materialized, twisted, hulking forms that moved with terrifying speed. More. Hana gasped. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed fiercely. Then we give them everything. The fight that followed was fierce and chaotic. Jin-Woo's blades slashed through the oncoming shapes, each strike a precise blend of force and grace. He marshaled his shadow energy to form a spinning shield, deflecting blows meant to overwhelm. Their strength is raw but uncoordinated, he observed, ducking a savage swipe. Focus their momentum against them. Hana danced through the fray, her daggers flashing as she targeted vulnerable joints and necks, each move economical and lethal. She vaulted over a creature, planting a dagger deep into its spine. It collapsed, dissolving into wisps of smoke. But the swarm kept coming, endless and hungry. Jin-Woo ducked under a powerful overhead slash, retaliating with a burst of shadow flames that engulfed multiple enemies, turning their forms into flickering ash. Yet with each victory, the toll on their energy mounted. In a desperate moment, a spectral beast lunged at Hana. She barely rolled away, gasping as pain flared in her side. Jin-Woo was instantly at her side, shielding as he counterattacked with a flurry of blade strikes that pushed the creature back. Between breaths, Hana looked up at Jin-Woo, determination blazing in her eyes. We're not done yet. He nodded, shadows gathering like a storm around him. Then neither are they. As the last creature fell, the chamber quaked violently. The battle was winning, but the true war was only beginning. Jin-Woo braced himself as an enormous shadow beast surged forward, its form a terrifying amalgam of smoke and flame. The chamber's air thickened as the beast unleashed a torrent of dark energy, forcing Jin-Woo to summon his shadow blades faster than thought. The clash was thunderous, blades rang against tendrils of shadow fire that hissed and crackled. Jin-Woo twisted, his movements fluid and measured, parrying a sweeping strike and countering with a rapid slash that severed one of the beast's limbs. The shadow recoiled with a guttural roar, regrowing its appendage amidst the fray. Hana, her daggers glowing icy blue, danced around the battlefield with lethal grace. She darted between the beast's strikes, exploiting openings with quick, electrified jabs that sizzled against the enemy's core. Focus its regeneration points, she yelled over the noise. Jin-Woo nodded, coordinating their strikes with wordless precision. He applied shadow bindings that slowed the creature's healing while Hana delivered decisive blows. The synergy of shadow and electricity weakened the beast, causing it to stagger. But the beast's retaliation was savage. A massive claw sent debris flying, injuring Hana's shoulder. Blood mingled with the dirt, but her resolve only hardened. Jin-Woo shouted, "Hold strong, Hana. We're almost there." Gathering his will, Jin-Woo channeled the dark energy into his blades, each strike glowing with lethal intensity. A furious flurry carved through the beast's defenses until, with a final cry, it shattered into embers and smoke. Exhausted but victorious, Jin-Woo and Hana shared a glance, neither fully aware that the chamber's deepest shadows now stirred with an even darker presence, waiting to claim what was left of their strength. Jin-Woo's eyes snapped open, muscles tensing as the chamber shook violently. Debris rained down, and the sinister presence that had appeared earlier stepped from the shadows, their aura thick with menace and ancient power. The air crackled as the figure's voice cut through the chaos, taunting and cold, "You think your victories matter? This city's fate has long been sealed." Jin-Woo didn't hesitate. Shadows leapt to his command, coiling like serpents around his arms as he charged forward. The fight erupted with explosive force, the dark energy of the enemy clashing against Jin-Woo's swirling shadows. Each strike was a calculated battle of wills, shadows meeting shadow, steel meeting spectral claws. Hana weaved through the fray with precision, her dual daggers leaving streaks of electric light as she struck at openings only Jin-Woo's attacks created. The tide turned when the enemy summoned a tempest of shadow fire, engulfing the chamber in a swirling inferno. Jin-Woo anchored himself, his shadow blades absorbing the blaze, casting a protective veil over Hana. With a primal roar, he unleashed a concentrated strike that shattered the enemy's defenses momentarily, but it was not enough. The figure dissipated into fragments, leaving behind a chilling echo. This is only the beginning. As the dust settled, the chamber trembled anew, a deeper darkness awakening beneath. Jin-Woo and Hana exchanged a grim look. The war for Neo-Tokyo's soul was far from over, and the true enemy was yet to reveal itself. The chamber vibrated with tension as the shadowy figure glided forward, an eerie chill suffusing the air. Jin-Woo's muscles tensed, shadow blades ready, as Hana's electric daggers sparked in her grip. The foe's eyes gleamed like black stars, promising destruction. The battle erupted in a blur. The figure unleashed a barrage of shadow tendrils lashing with deadly speed. Jin-Woo twisted, parrying each with calculated grace, the clash of shadow on shadow ringing sharp in his ears. "Predict their rhythm, Hana," he called, breath ragged but steady. Hana danced around, launching precise counterattacks, her dagger strikes igniting bursts of blue electricity that hissed through the air. "They're adapting. Keep sharp." Her voice was fierce yet focused. Jin-Woo felt his heartbeat synchronize with the ebb and flow of combat, every movement instinctual. When a tendril whipped towards Hana, he intercepted with a sweeping strike, severing it cleanly. Together, their strikes became a deadly cadence, exploiting openings, severing limbs, and unraveling spectral armor. Suddenly, the shadow foe seemed to vanish, reforming behind Jin-Woo with a forceful strike aimed for his back. A lightning-fast spin saved him just in time, shadow flames erupting from his blades as he countered with a spinning slash that disintegrated the assailant's forms into tendrils of fading smoke. Amid moments of breathless chaos, Jin-Woo's mind flickered with determination. Every strike is survival, every block a testament. Hana's voice cut through the noise, and every breath we take is defiance. As the foe faltered under their relentless assault, a shuddering quake echoed, another warning beneath the bottle's roar. The city's true fate awaited beneath the surface. The dark figure's voice echoed in the chamber as Jin-Woo and Hana steadied themselves. The tension was electric, the air thick with impending violence. The ground beneath them seemed to pulse, alive with the city's dark heartbeat. The figure struck first, a whirlwind of shadow and flame swirling in violent arcs toward Jin-Woo. Reacting instantly, Jin-Woo summoned his shadows, forming blades that danced with deadly precision. Each strike was calculated and fluid, parrying and countering in a deadly rhythm. Hana moved like a shadow herself, her daggers flickering with electric energy as she targeted the enemy's vulnerable gaps. She darted through the chaos, landing sharp, crackling cuts that sapped the foe's strength. Despite their skill, the enemy's power was overwhelming. Tendrils of pure darkness snaked with cruel intent, lashing and binding. Jin-Woo felt the cold bite of the shadow's grip as it coiled around his arm. With a roar, he summoned a surge of energy that shattered the bonds, flames licking at the darkness like wildfire. The bottle's pace was intense, short, sharp bursts of attack and defense that painted the chamber with sparks and shadows. Hana shouted tactical commands, their synergy a dance perfected through trust and years of struggle. Focus on breaking the core energy, the shadows waver there. Jin-Woo nodded and poured all his power into a spinning strike, shadow blades glowing fiercely, and plunged into the enemy's chest. The figure let out a sound between a scream and a hiss as darkness fragmented into smoky wisps. But as the last wisp faded, the chamber trembled violently. The true, darker force had begun to awaken deeper in the city's depths. Jin-Woo and Hana exchanged grim looks, knowing their fight had just entered a new, deadlier phase. The chamber quaked as Jin-Woo summoned his shadows, drawing them into a swirling vortex of darkness that billowed like a living storm. The shadow beast roared, tendrils of smoke and flame lashing out with ferocious speed. Jin-Woo surged forward, blades shimmering with shadow-infused energy, each slash slicing through the shadowy tendrils aiming for his flesh. His movements were swift and precise, every strike a calculated dance, exploiting the creature's fleeting weaknesses. Hana darted in at lightning speed, her electric daggers crackling and glowing. She leapt onto a fallen pillar, then launched herself into the fray, her blades cutting through the beast's dark form with a fierce cry. "Keep hitting the core," she shouted, her voice echoing through the chaos. Her strikes sent sparks flying, igniting patches of shadow and revealing the blood-red glow within the creature's chest. The beast reared its massive form, unleashing a wave of shadow fire that engulfed the room in a suffocating heat. Jin-Woo parried with a shadow shield as Hana rolled away, then countered with a sweeping slash that sent a shockwave rippling through the chamber. "Got to weaken that core," Hana yelled again, thrusting deep into the creature's abdomen with her lightning-charged dagger. But the creature was relentless. It lashed out with tendrils of shadow, dragging Jin-Woo's leg and pulling him dangerously close to the raging inferno. Jin-Woo gritted his teeth, summoning the last of his strength to ignite a burst of shadow flame that temporarily seared the tentacles away. Hana's eyes widened in alarm, but she pushed herself harder, her blades glowing brighter. With a final surge, Jin-Woo leapt onto the creature's back, slashing viciously toward its molten core. Hana's lightning strike paralyzing the beast's limbs, Jin-Woo drove his blades deep, an eruption of pure shadows. The beast exploded into a shower of dark light, scattering across the chamber like stardust. Suddenly, the chamber's roar turned into a deafening rumble. The walls cracked open revealing a deeper darkness, the true abyss awakening beneath the ruins. Jin-Woo and Hana exchanged a grim look. "This isn't the end," Jin-Woo said through clenched teeth. "It's just the beginning of something worse." Shadows flickered ominously as the chamber began to collapse, heralding a new, more sinister phase of their fight. The chamber shuddered as Jin-Woo and Hana stood surrounded, besieged by a swirling mass of shadowy foes. Each breath was a battle, every movement a dance between life and oblivion. Jin-Woo pivoted, shadow blades flashing like streaks of midnight lightning, slicing through the advancing figures with a combination of lethal precision and raw power. His strikes were neither extravagant nor wasted, each was a calculated response to the threats closing in. Hana's twin daggers sparked with electric fire as she weaved through the chaos. Her footwork was deft, evading sweeping claws and retaliating with incisive jabs that disrupted the rhythm of the shadow assailants. Spotting a momentary opening, she called out, "Aim for the core, they're vulnerable where their shadows cluster." Jin-Woo nodded, channeling more of his inner darkness into a dense, swirling slash that cleaved through the enemy's defenses. The largest shadow creature, a towering entity with fiery eyes, roared, spewing tendrils of corrosive shadow flame. Jin-Woo raised a shimmering shield of condensed shadows, absorbing the blast with a hiss. "Hana, flank right," he commanded. Responding instantly, Hana darted around, plunging her daggers into a glowing patch near the beast's heart. With Jin-Woo's shadow blades carving a path through its limbs, the creature howled and began to break apart, but the chamber trembled violently, the true threat was awakening below. Jin-Woo exchanged a grim glance with Hana. "The fight's not over. The city's darkness is deeper than we thought." They prepared for the next wave, shadows gathering, as the pulse of Neo-Tokyo's underworld quickened. The chamber shuddered as shadows coalesced into countless spectral foes, their eerie forms flickering with desperate rage. Jin-Woo and Hana stood shoulder to shoulder, each poised for the onslaught. The fight that followed was a frenetic blend of precision and raw power, like a dance on the knife edge of chaos. Jin-Woo's shadow blades arced through the air, striking with deadly intent. Each swing was purposeful, cutting down enemies with sharp efficiency, his movements fluid yet charged with fierce determination. Shadows writhed along his arms, pulsating as if alive, fueling his strikes with dark energy. When cornered, he deftly twisted and evaded, countering with bursts of shadow flame that scarred the spectral forms. Beside him, Hana moved like a flash of lightning, her electric daggers crackling as they sliced through shadows. She ducked beneath a sweeping claw, driving a dagger into a vulnerable joint. The enemy howled, recoiling into smoky fragments only to reform moments later. "They're relentless," Hana shouted, eyes blazing, "but so are we." The tide of battle shifted when a colossal shadow beast erupted from the void, its fiery eyes burning with malevolence. It slammed the ground, sending shockwaves that knocked Jin-Woo and Hana off balance. Jin-Woo regained footing and channeled his shadows into a spinning blade, slashing at the beast's legs to cripple it. Hana leapt onto the wounded foe, dagger strikes sparking like thunderbolts across its massive chest. As the beast staggered, the chamber trembled, the ancient power beneath was awakening, threatening to engulf them all. Jin-Woo locked eyes with Hana, his voice tight, "No matter the darkness ahead, we fight, for the city, for each other." Their blades found the beast's heart together, unleashing a blinding surge that shattered the darkness. But as the echoes faded, a low rumble sounded, something more sinister beneath the ruins stirred awake, promising a deeper war. The chamber shook violently as the ground beneath Jin-Woo and Hana cracked open, revealing a swirling abyss of shadow and flame. The enemy's power was far greater than they had anticipated, an ancient force awakened from the depths of Neo-Tokyo's darkest past. Jin-Woo charged forward, shadows coiling around his blades like living serpents. Each strike was precise and ferocious, cutting through waves of spectral guardians materializing from the abyss. Hana moved like lightning, her daggers sparking with electric fury, taking out foes with swift, calculated strikes. As the battle raged, Jin-Woo felt exhaustion creeping in, every movement costing precious energy. A massive tendril lashed out, catching Hana off guard and sending her crashing against the stone wall. Jin-Woo's heart pounded as he rushed to defend her, blocking a crushing blow that would have shattered bones. The pain in his arm flared, but he pressed on, knowing retreat was not an option. Between breaths, the enemy appeared, a towering figure cloaked in darkness, eyes glowing with malicious fire. Your struggle is meaningless, it intoned, voice echoing like a death knell. Neo Tokyo belongs to us. Jin-Woo steadied himself, shadows darkening around his blades. Not while we still breathe, he replied fiercely. In a desperate burst of strength, Jin-Woo unleashed a swirling vortex of shadows, engulfing the enemy in a tempest of dark energy. But as the figure reformed, the chamber began to collapse. Rocks fell, dust filled the air, and the abyss threatened to consume all. Hana grabbed Jin-Woo's arm. We have to get out, she shouted over the chaos. With one last combined effort, they raced through the crumbling tunnels, the final echoes of the battle fading into silence. But as they emerged into the uncertain light, Jin-Woo knew this was only the beginning of their fight against the darkness looming over Neo Tokyo. The air was thick with dust and tension as Jin-Woo and Hana faced the ever-growing darkness beneath Neo Tokyo. Their bodies ached, their breaths came hard and sharp, but their spirits burned fierce like the shadow flames curling around their weapons. From the swirling void ahead, a new adversary emerged, Wrath incarnate, its form vast and undulating, eyes like molten stars glaring with ancient hate. The chamber itself seemed to pulse with its malevolence. Hana's daggers sparked as she whispered fiercely, "This is it, the heart of darkness itself." Jin-Woo tightened his grip around his shadow blades, shadows swirling with suppressed rage and willpower. Then we fight not just for survival, but to reclaim what was stolen. The battle erupted with a ferocity that shook stone and soul. The creature's tendrils, thick as serpents and scorching as coals, lashed and slammed. Jin-Woo danced through the onslaught, his blades carving streaks through the shadow fire, disrupting its flow with every slash. The clash sounded, a symphony of steel striking darkness, punctuated by hisses, roars, and the snap of energy. Hana moved with ballistic precision, ducking, weaving, and striking at the creature's core with electrically charged daggers that crackled through the darkness. She narrowly avoided a crushing blow, rolling to deliver a counterstrike that left a glowing scorch. But the beast's assault was unyielding, growing more desperate, forcing Jin-Woo to call upon the deepest reservoirs of his shadow power. His blades flared, coalescing into a spinning whirlwind, a storm of darkness that tore through the beast's defenses. The creature shrieked, staggering back with wounds bleeding shadow essence. The chamber trembled again, foundations fractured, and the darkness began to recede, but not without a terrifying final gasp. Jin-Woo and Hana stood exhausted, the air heavy with silent promise of future trials. The trembling stillness after the fierce battle was a fragile veil over the chaos beneath Neo Tokyo. Jin-Woo and Hana leaned against the shattered walls, breaths ragged, muscles screaming, shadows flickering weakly with spent energy. The echoes of clashing steel and roars of vanished beasts still vibrated in the cold air. But survival came with a cost. Hana's dagger hand trembled slightly from a deep wound, her breath shallow but defiant. Jin-Woo's mind raced, not with victory, but with the weight of what lay ahead. This skirmish was but a drop in the tide of darkness enveloping the city. Around them, crumbling stone and scattered magical sigils told stories of unfinished battles and sacrifices. Jin-Woo's shadows writhed uneasily, sensing a deeper force awakening in the abyss, one more dreadful than anything they had faced so far. "The city isn't done with us," Jin-Woo said quietly, eyes scanning the fallen foes and broken terrain. "Every fight we survive, every blow we land, it's just buying time." Hana nodded, swallowing exhaustion. "And every time, we learn. We grow stronger." She glanced toward the widening fissure in the earth below. But the real darkness is still waiting to rise. The fissure pulsed ominously as faint tendrils of shadow seeped upward, weaving patterns that whispered of ancient power and forgotten curses. It was a silent summons to the next chapter of their war, a battle that would test not just their strength, but their very souls. Jin-Woo and Hana exchanged a silent vow. Their fight for Neo-Tokyo was far from over, and the shadows ahead would demand everything they had left. After their brutal battle, Jin-Woo and Hana emerged from the crumbling depths, their bodies battered but their spirits unyielding. The chamber's devastation mirrored their own internal turmoil. The cost of survival was etched on their scars and in the shadows that clung ever tighter within. Outside, Neo-Tokyo's streets had changed. The city pulsed uneasily, the aftershocks of the subterranean conflict rippling into the everyday world. Citizens murmured of strange phenomena, flickers of dark energy, and shadows lurking just beyond the neon glow. The war they waged beneath the city had awakened forces far older and more sinister than any had dared imagine. Jin-Woo's gaze scanned the horizon, his mind heavy not just with exhaustion but with the weight of looming threats. "This isn't over," he said quietly, eyes reflecting the faint glimmer of dawn's first light. Hana, though weary, nodded firmly. "It never is. But neither will we falter." The impact of their fight stretched beyond the battlefield. Allies questioned loyalties. Old wounds reopened. The fragile trust they had forged now faced tests darker than any shadow. And in the distance, a new figure watched silently from the shadows, one whose motives remained veiled, whose power promised to challenge the very fate Jin-Woo and Hana fought to protect. The city, alive in its unrest, awaited the next move in a game far older than any player. The story had only just begun. The aftermath of their fierce battle left Jin-Woo and Hana standing amid the cracked, shattered remnants of the chamber deep beneath Neo-Tokyo. The air hung heavy with ash and the whispers of restless shadows, and though the immediate threat had been vanquished, a pressing tension remained. The true price of their fight was beginning to show. Jin-Woo flexed his fingers, sensing the lingering pull of shadow magic weaving through his veins. The power that had surged through him was intoxicating, yet exhausting, a double-edged sword that threatened to overwhelm if left unchecked. Hana, her breath steady but eyes sharp, cast a wary glance toward the widening fissure in the earth below them. "The darkness down there, it's not just anger or spite. It's alive." Jin-Woo nodded slowly. "Shadow magic feeds on more than light. It thrives on fear, pain, and loss. We've only scratched the surface of what we're really up against." He closed his eyes, reaching deeper within himself, feeling the shadows pulse restlessly. "I can feel it calling, trying to break through." The very ground beneath trembled again as the fissure began to glow with an eerie, shifting light. Tendrils of shadow rose like awakening serpents, poised to coil around the city once more. The battle was over for now, but the war for Neo-Tokyo's soul, was only intensifying. Hana placed a steady hand on Jin-Woo's shoulder. "We need to gather strength. Find allies. The shadows outside this chamber will grow without end if left unchecked." Jin-Woo's eyes glinted with grim determination as he gazed toward the fissure. "Then we prepare. Not just for the battles ahead, but for the cost they'll demand." The shadows writhed and pulsed as the chamber's light dimmed, swallowing Jin-Woo and Hana in twilight, leaving the city on the brink of a new, darker dawn. Thank you for joining the journey through the shadows of Neo-Tokyo, where bravery meets darkness and every victory is forged in sacrifice. Jin-Woo and Hana's battle may pause, but the city's heartbeat grows louder, calling for new heroes and deeper mysteries. Stay tuned for more adventures in this ever-shifting world of light and shadow. If you enjoyed the story, please like, comment, and subscribe to support and share your thoughts. Your next epic awaits just beyond the horizon.